Hi, I'm Noah, and I have the pleasure to show you one of my doctoral thesis studies entitled "Do plant-herbivore interactions recover after the invasive plant 𝘾𝐾𝐳𝑚 is removed?" Let's get started. Invasive species are becoming increasingly widespread in all types of habitats. They drastically affect the biodiversity and the functioning of the ecosystems in which they are found, by competing with and displacing native flora and by altering biotic interactions. One of the most problematic plant genera invading coastal habitats is 𝘾𝐾𝐳𝑚, or better known as ice plant or sour fig. This clonal and succulent plant from South Africa substantially affects these habitats, particularly in areas with a Mediterranean climate. To minimize its impacts, eradication programs focusing on mechanical control have recently been carried out at several locations along the northwest coast of the Iberian Peninsula by volunteers. However, the consequences of these management actions on the recovery of native plants and invertebrate herbivores, as well as plant-herbivore interactions, are unknown. Taking all of this into account, our objective is to determine what are the consequences of the mechanical control of 𝘾𝐾𝐳𝑚 species on the abundance of herbivore invertebrates, on the specific richness of both plant and herbivore invertebrates, and on the plant-herbivore interaction networks in removed plots. Removed plots will be compared with non-invaded plots and with invaded plots. Hi again! This is a field experiment, so I'll show you what I do. First of all, I have to go to different places, all in Galicia, the Spanish community where I live. My day starts here, at a train station. Then I go by car to my different experimental locations. In this fieldwork, data were collected from 3 different plots: the invaded plot with 𝘾𝐾𝐳𝑚 species, a non-invaded plot where 𝘾𝐾𝐳𝑚 was never established, and a removed plot where the plant was removed in 2018-2019. In each location, 3 plots of 100 square meters were established, one for the invaded plot, one for the non-invaded plot, and one for the removed plot. A quadrant was thrown at 3-meter intervals about 10 times. For each quadrant, the percentage of total plant cover and 𝘾𝐾𝐳𝑚 cover was determined. Plant and invertebrate herbivore diversity were noted, and plant-herbivore interactions were recorded for 3 minutes. We can be per location about 2 hours and a half, 3 hours, and I do the same in all of them. Let's start with Aranzada, one of my coastal locations, because it's full of sand and it has deep soils, and you can find typical coastal dune vegetation like Ammophila arenaria. Now I'm in Rons, my second coastal dune location. My day is over for now. Hi! Today I'm going to my third and last coastal dune location, Arteixo, in A Coruña. Hi girl, I'm in Torre de Hércules, in A Coruña, one of my 3 coastal reroubling locations. It's so reroubling because we don't see sand here, it has shallow soils, and the plants that appear here are disruptive species. For example, 𝘊𝘢𝘳𝑰, this plant. 𝘾𝐾𝐳𝑚 can compete very well with disruptive species. We finished, so we go to a very close location, Armenia, which is other reroubling location. Today It's my last field day, and I'm going to my third and last shrubland location, 𝘊𝘢𝘳𝑗𝑐. To summarize, I go to 3 coastal dune locations, Alanzada, Rons, and Arteixo, and to 3 coastal shrubland locations, Torre d'Hércules, Punta Herminia, and 𝘊𝘳𝑗𝑐. Wow! I have a lot of information to analyze with error statistics. And what about this analysis? Let's start with the number of plant species. On this graph, you are going to see on the left side the 3 plots, invaded in red, removed in violet, and non-invaded in green, of the coastal dune locations, and on the right side, the 3 plots of the coastal shrubland locations. In this case, the number is greater in dunes than in shrublands. This is because shrub species, such as Ulysses europaeus, Rubus ulmifolius, or 𝐒𝐞𝐜𝐨𝐬 cinerea, predominate in the shrublands and take up a lot of space. Moreover, there are significant differences between the invaded plot and the non-invaded and removed plots, which are more similar. The number of herbivore species don't have significant differences between plots or locations. Finally, the herbivore abundance in invaded and removed plots is significantly lower than in the native plot in dunes, while the opposite is observed in the shrublands. Now I'm going to explain you the plant-herbivore interactions. In this figure, we only see the species found in coastal dune locations. Each bar represents an invertebrate herbivore. For example, this bar is Apis fabae or this is Theba pisana. These lower bars are different plant species. For example, the red bar is Carpobrotus or this is Ammophila arenaria. The lines connecting plant species and invertebrate herbivores show the interactions between them. For example, in the invaded plot, we can see many interactions between herbivores and Carpobrotus, or in the non-invaded plot, we can see that there are many interactions between herbivores of the family Conidae and different plant species. Now we will see this in numbers. Okay, as you can see, the number of species and interactions is lower in the invaded plot compared to the non-invaded plot. The removed plot presents intermediate values, but is statistically equal to those of the non-invaded plot. What happens in coastal shrubland locations? Well, more or less the same. The non-invaded and removed plots don't show significant differences between them, while they do show significant differences with the invaded plot. We also determine other parameters, one of the most important of which is modularity. Modularity is a measure of how plant herbivore species tend to be ordered into subgroups of species, which interact more often among themselves than with other species. The higher the modularity value, the higher the stability of the food web, because we can see more diversification and specialization in the interactions between plants and invertebrate herbivores. In this case, the non-invaded and removed plots are more stable, while the invaded plots are very unstable, meaning that the removal of a species could severely affect the network. Nestedness is based on how interactions are organized hierarchically around a core group of generalist species, so nestedness determines how generalist and specialist species interact. For example, in invaded plots, a more nested network indicates that there is a core group of plant species and generalist herbivores interacting with each other, and there are few interacting specialist species. While in non-invaded plots, there appear to be more interacting specialist species. So, our study highlights that the removal of Carpobrotus species favors an increase in the abundance of herbivore invertebrates and in the specific richness of plants in these plots, and may allow the recovery of plant-herbivore interactions after a few years of succession, making them more similar to non-invaded plots than to invaded plots. Therefore, based on our observations, in order to reduce the impact of Carpobrotus species on the biodiversity and to favor the conservation and the recovery of native habitats, management strategies should be implemented in coastal areas invaded by this invasive plant. And that's all for now. Thank you.